This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock, joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Good to have you with us.
Good to be here.
Awesome. We got a lot to talk about today. I want to begin on the national stage because there's a lot happening at the state level, but there's a huge issue happening.
Something transcendent at the national level.
I think so, yes. We have this immigrant family separation situation going on, conflicting perspectives from the Trump administration. I'm going to read you a few folks who made the Sunday rounds and some things that have been in the news. Trump says that they're only doing this because Democrats won't negotiate with him on immigration. Jeff Sessions says there's biblical backing for this. Stephen Miller says it's a simple decision. He's one of the policy advisors in the White House. Kirsten Nelson, who is the head of Homeland Security, we don't even have this policy. This policy doesn't exist. And then Kellyanne Conway says no one likes this policy of separating kids and their parents. Who's going to sort out this debacle?
Oh, you want me to do it right now?
You can, yes.
Jeff Sessions in the Senate was known notoriously as the most hardliner on immigration. He's simply on illegal immigration. There's simply no tolerance. Don't let these folks in. Trump ran on a sort of a Sessions-type basis on immigration, started his campaign that way, appealed to his base. Sessions was the first establishment politician to come on board with him. For all this talk about how Sessions, he's mad at Sessions about the Mueller investigation and his disqualification, that's a separate thing. This is real Trumpism at work. And real Trumpism is in this Trump-Sessions world and Miller world, and to some extent you might bring in some guys like our Tom Cotton, who's their tough hardliner on immigration. This is what this comes down to. These people are seeking asylum in our country, largely fleeing from Central America, not Mexico. The Trump administration believes that we should treat anybody who enters the country without documentation as a suspected criminal and detain those people, and we should separate them from their children because we separate anybody detained or held under arrest from their children, and also to send a message that you stop doing this. You've been bringing your kids and trying to get in the country, and that's got to stop. This idea that the Democrats made them do it is absurd. This idea that there's any law that made them do it is false. The fact that there is no immigration solution is largely because Trump, in his general oblivion to policy, was ready in one meeting to agree with Democrats on a bipartisan solution until Cotton and Steve Miller told him, no, we need to parlay the wide support of the Dreamers into some real tough immigration reforms. That's what's going on here. Laura Bush, a fine Republican woman, so far as I know, you didn't mention her because she was in the Washington Post column. She said, this is unconscionable and it breaks my heart. I just got an email from John Kasich, who must be running for a third party for president. I don't know, because he's still out there. He's saying the same thing. This is, I got social media respondents, of course, from liberals who are aghast by it, but conservatives say this is breaking my heart too. And they take a different view, like, it's too bad they think they have to do this, but surely we can fix it. It can be fixed. They can stop this policy right now. They can detain, with all the resources of this great country, we can detain a family together while we decide how to dispose of their case. And it's sending a message to the world of meanness on America's part, sending a message. It's demonstrating meanness to the world. At the same time, our guy is blowing up a G7 conference with our allies. At the same time, he's over here talking about what a great guy the North Korean strongman is. That's where we are right now in this country and in this world, in my view.
On this issue of illegal immigration and this separation of families, does this become a big enough of a wedge issue for some of the congressional candidates in this year's election cycle? Can a Clark Tucker, can a Josh Mahoney, can a Chintan Desai, can a Hayden Shamel, can they use that against our largely completely silent congressional delegation at this point in time?
I'm not going to express any optimism, with all due respect, for Josh Mahoney in the 3rd District. I don't think that there's much practical that can affect a Republican victory there now. It may be in time. But this, I think, potentially plays to a Clark Tucker theme, which thus far has been Arkansas interests first and health care. French Hill voted for a health care bill that might well have left a cancer survivor like me without insurance because of no coverage for a pre-existing condition. And now the Republican attorneys general are in court trying to essentially undo the mandate in a way that would threaten coverage of pre-existing conditions. And the White House is not defending it. So you can put all that on French Hill if you're Clark Tucker. Now you can add to it, what's your view, Congressman? You voted with this man for on everything. You've been a rubber stamp. Are you a rubber stamp for him now on separating families?
And if you're not, what are you going to do about the situation?
See, I think yes. In a mildly purple district, potentially in play like ours, and that's the best I'll describe it, mildly and potentially in play. Yes, whenever you can get emotional issues, coverage for health, and separation of families together, simple images, simple messages, fitting a broad theme, which is, this is a mean administration, and you're part of it. I think it's potentially an issue.
It's got a little Cubans and car tags feel to it there.
It does.
Simple message.
In terms of the sloganeering, yes.
Let's take a quick commercial break, come back and talk about some state politics specifically right after this word from our sponsors.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
And welcome back to Talk Business and Politics. I'm joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. All right, we've had some moves last week in terms of ethics at the state legislature. You've got the Senate now has rolled out some rules. You've been digging a little bit deep in there. What do these rules do, John?
Let me preface by saying this. What do these rules do? These rules do some good, but they won't do ultimate good unless you have ethical people who don't exercise the usual practice of finding a way around them. Okay?
Okay.
That's what it comes down to. They seek to regulate ethics. Good. We need to regulate ethics. Ethics, personal ethics, you know where those rest ultimately? With me, with you, with our behavior. That's so. In a discussion before we went on the air, you were explaining to me that you really can't do it. Our folks, we've been trying it for years. With every new scandal, we have new rules, and yet bad behavior continues. Of course it will. Of course it will. But you got to keep trying, and you got to keep imposing new rules. These new rules that the Senate are going to consider tomorrow afternoon. They're heavy with disclosure. Let me just run through quickly how complicated this is. They're heavy with disclosure. Let's say you're a lawyer, young lawyer, and your law firm has retainers from Entergy. You run for the Senate, you get elected. You may keep that retainer, your law firm may. You've got to disclose it. But what you have to do is disclose it in the context of every issue that might arise that could affect Entergy, which could include taxes, which could include regulations, which include any environmental issues. Right now, what they're wrestling with is everybody's happy for disclosure. Everybody says transparency is the key. Yeah, but are we going to have every senator stand up and say, I need to check the clerk. I filed a notice here that that I have an interest in this issue. They're trying to figure out, can we just do a blanket filing and then update it with bills as they come through and refer to the journal or what? So these things are
complicated.
more complicated than
Yeah.
they need to be. Now, this is not about Jeremy Hutchison, the rule. They stress that. In fact, Jim Hendren, his cousin, the incoming president pro tem, was working on these, had the staff working on these before Jeremy got in trouble. Nonetheless, he has emerged as kind of the poster boy for bad behavior in that he, as a sitting senator, not with a pre-existing, I started to say condition, pre-existing retainer,
Right.
but he went out and he, with an active lobbyist, while he's an active senator, he signs on as getting a retainer from this reaper of multi-millions in Medicaid reimbursements, which are made by legislative appropriation. Under the rule, he could still go out and do, there's a rule, subsection something of 24, that says you may not accept, a senator may not accept additional income or compensation if he has reason to believe that it would create some sort of conflict affecting his independent judgment on issue and the performance of his duties. Okay, that doesn't mean he can't do it.
Yeah, still leaves it up to the individual.
It's up to him.
And his or her discretion.
It's up to him, but he has to disclose it. So, Jeremy Hutchison, under these rules, could still do what he did, and he could say, you know, I'm just getting a retainer to provide some legal services here. It's what I do. I'm a lawyer. He would then have to go disclose it, and then some senator would have to make a case of it and say, no, this violates 24B because what you're saying you know to be so is not so. This poses a conflict affecting your independent judgment in the performance of your duties. And then 5 members of the Senate, including Jason Rayford,
What would be the penalty?
We don't know. They're supposed to get to the bottom of this. The FBI has been working on this for 4 years. They're not to the bottom of it yet. And then they've got a range of sanctions, a letter of caution. I bet that if, to the extent that any of these ever get adjudicated by the Senate Ethics Committee, I bet the letter of caution will be about the strongest thing they ever do, which is, you know, Jeremy, you need to try to be more careful before you take all these conflict retainers. Or a reprimand, or something else, expulsion eventually. It's a messy, convoluted system. I've been on the phone all weekend and people give me different views of what it means. There's even some concern about whether the Senate will show up with 24 members to suspend the rules to even do this tomorrow. But it's the right thing to try to do. Mm-hmm. That's my point. Yeah. It's the right thing to try to do.
All right. Much more to come on that issue. We'll watch that as it unfolds more. Issue number 1, tort reform, that will be on the ballot this November, debated at the Arkansas Bar Association last week, which met for their annual meeting. Seems to be disagreement on the high court about this. How divided do you think the legal community is as well on issue number 1?
I don't think the legal community is greatly divided at all. I think it's overwhelming. Issue 1 would cap non-economic damages, and also allow and also cap attorneys' fees for bringing damage suits, and also, most ominously in terms of government practice, would allow the legislature by 3/5 vote to write rules affecting the court. They're supposed to be co-equal independent branches of government. What was your question?
My question is, how divided is the legal community? How divided is the Supreme Court?
There'll be some corporate defense people who will like this, but most generally, the legal community does not want the Supreme Court, does not want the legislature. This legislature, any legislature, setting judicial procedures, simply don't. So I think there's not great division there.
Yeah. All right. We'll hold off making predictions.
There's division, I think, on the Arkansas Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Justice Kemp said, largely on the basis of this rule-making change, that he would vote against it and encourage other lawyers to do the same. Justice Sean Womack, who is a former highly partisan, very conservative former state senator, I got confused with him on the Twitter during the Bar Association because he sat in a seminar conducted by former Judge Annabelle Tuck, saying keeping politics out of our legislature, out of our Supreme Court, or keeping politics out of our courts. That was the title of her presentation, and she was explaining, and then he thought it ironic, and he kind of snarked that while the title was keeping politics out of our court, she instructed the members how to do mass mailings, how to do political things in order to defeat this amendment. And then I said, well, here's one. And I said, based on that, he must be in favor of issue 1. Oh, he shot back, oh, no. He has no view. He was just pointing out the irony of this deal.
Well, straightened you out, didn't he?
Not really. Not really. And in Judge Tuck's defense, she meant by her seminar, keeping politics out of our court, she meant don't let the elected legislature set our rules. It will be necessary to oppose that, to oppose as something on the ballot.
Yes.
So there's a simple explanation. She was not contradicting herself. But Sean Womack thought it interesting to make that point. So
you have to have somebody to get into a Twitter war with every now and then. It's good. It's good for you.
It's good. It's
healthy political debate. And
it
it's
is
entertainment on top of that.
It is. And I'm happy to entertain. And I took it back. I said, Your Honor, I apologize. You have no view on the legislature taking over your court, right? And I didn't hear him. He may have responded to that. But it's, to conclude, this is the biggest thing on the ballot.
This will be.
You got the legal
it's community.
It's
going to be the most money spent on this cycle.
This is big. It changes it changes the aggrieved in terms of what of the kinds of recourse it has in the courts. But more than that, it says the legislature can change the way that our courts do their business, which is extraordinary.
Treading into some separation of powers issues here. This will be a big debate.
I'm sorry to have gone on too long.
No, you're good. Governor Hutchinson also spoke to the Bar Association about ethics, but he also brought up a potential reform that he wants to see in campaign finance, limiting the so-called clone PACs, coordinated PACs that basically have the same PO address, organized usually by the same people, but they just have different names, and it has been a way for some groups, namely Conduit for Action, which was
against him.
Its match against Governor Hutchinson there. He wants to limit those PACs to the maximum campaign contribution limit if they've got that similar title. I kind of go back to our original conversation about ethics in the legislature here. They're going to find a way around these contributions, are they not?
You're the cynic in all this. They're going to find a way around. But
you see how you've rubbed off on me all these years?
Wait a minute.
John,
I'm the one over here saying we've got to try to do right, and you're the one saying it won't do any good.
You're reverting to your idealistic youth, aren't you?
Well, I've just never grown up. There's another way to look at it. But I must admit to you that when the governor made that comment at the Bar Association, when he usually reserves some of his major legal type pronouncements, I thought, well, how exactly are we going to define this? We've got stories. I think we know what happened. You got a fundraiser, a wheeler dealer, understanding the PAC laws, who said, okay, gets a bunch of people with money together and said, draw me up a PAC here, draw me up a PAC here, and you give me all your money, and I'm going to split it among these PACs. And they all look alike in terms of their donations, in terms of their officers, in terms of their organizational setup, maybe their PO address, those sorts of things. And the governor is saying, rightly, that's baloney, that's wrong. Stop it. When you see these two, let's go for some aggregate limits when you see these kinds of things. So I want to know what you do when the guy puts different PO addresses on them and doesn't make them evident, their association evident. Your theme, which is finding a way around it, even I, in my naivete, I think I can see a way around that.
Your naivete.
Yeah. So the devil, as Ross Perot liked to say, and maybe someone long before him, the devil is in the details, isn't it?
It is.
All right.
And we're out of time for going into more details.
In other words, shut up, Brummett. You've been wanting to say that. Go ahead. I enjoy these Monday sessions. I hope a couple of viewers do too.
Thank you for your time and your insight.
All right, thanks.
All right, he's John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. You can catch him in the newspaper 3 days a week, online a fourth time, and then he's with us every day during the week.
And social
media.
Watch
video.
I mean, you get on that Facebook and Twitter, you can have some fun.
We're going to get you on the Hogs in Omaha now. We're going to get you into the baseball fandom.
I just can't get into it.
Well,
I brought up in the football generation. I still think of, never mind.
Thank you for being here.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in. That's all for today's program. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.